In the finance world, we're taking a look this morning at some pretty major developments that have been happening in the Chinese commercial space over the last couple of months. So the Chinese government has been cracking down on its massive tech companies with a series of huge fines and regulatory changes. It's also crushing the multi-billion-dollar private tutoring industry. Well, what is going on? We can ask the ABC's China correspondent Bill Birtles, who joins us from Sydney. Morning, Bill.
Good morning, Mel.
What's happening in practice? We use the word crackdown a lot. What's actually happening?
Well, there's a lot happening, too much to really describe. But I think when it comes to the tech companies, which is really one of the biggest moves that China's leader Xi Jinping is undertaking at the moment, crackdown is maybe not the right word. In many ways, he seems to be trying to do what legislators in the US often talk about with companies like Google and Facebook. You always hear these debates in the US about breaking up big tech or reining in the power of the big tech companies. Well, that appears to be what Xi Jinping is trying to do in China. He's using all sorts of different measures, antitrust investigations, tax investigations. He's even introduced draft legislation. Well, draft, what are we talking about? It's China. It will go through. There's no parliament. But new rules putting national security limits on algorithms for tech companies so they can't be shared overseas and used by other countries. So all these different measures are designed to really sort of rein in the control of these big tech companies. But just the most significant one, he announced recently an initiative called Common Prosperity. And although the details are vague, it seems to be an indication that these companies that have made such big profits in recent years from now on will be expected to give back a great deal more to Chinese society.
So is that the ultimate aim then, to try and re-equalise this balance between these huge companies which have made massive profits, and many people have done very well out of that, and the rest of Chinese society?
Yeah, it's a little bit vague at the moment how that will happen. But over the past, let's say, 20 years, inequality in China has just exploded as the country got rich because some people got rich first. And for many decades, people abroad have sort of sniggered a bit at the way it's still the Communist Party, but it's very much a capitalist economy. So Xi Jinping appears to be indicating, when I say appears, he doesn't do interviews, he doesn't do press conferences. Often these things aren't spelt out very clearly, but he appears to be indicating that the age of super profits, of rampant growth in the market are over. And from now on, he would like to address the inequality in Chinese society. There have been state media editorials saying that, hey, we're not going to kill the capitalists. It's not like the Cultural Revolution of the 60s. We're not going back to hardcore socialism. But there are indications that he does want to change things. And because he has such immense power in the Chinese system, let's watch this space. It's
really fascinating. Does it have any effect for us here in Australia? I mean, I think sort of from an investor perspective, Australians tend not to be exposed to the Chinese market, unlike US investors who have more money in. So do you think that it's going to make much of a difference to either investors or even just wider society here in Australia?
Probably not. As you say, only super funds and people in ETFs on the stock market might have a bit of exposure to some of those Chinese blue chips, but those are Chinese stocks that are listed on the US on US markets anyway half the time. One thing I suppose that will be a bit different is, as part of his moves, Xi Jinping has pretty much banned Chinese companies from raising money on overseas stock markets. They'll now need specific government permission. So what this means is, in future, we're less likely to see big Chinese tech companies trying to raise money, trying to do IPOs overseas. And in a way, there's going to be a bit more of a sort of decoupling of the Chinese economy and the Western economy.
It's fascinating what's happening there. Bill, thank you so much for explaining it to us. And that phrase, common prosperity, we're going to be hearing a lot more of in the coming years, I think.